Joe Milton III, Esquire Jr. He is suddenly a dark horse Heisman candidate. So here we go. Nothing like winning the Heisman in July.
Hey now.
Let's go ahead and get to 4 downs. 4 downs is all about Joe Milton potentially winning the Heisman. Take me to Pro Football Focus, who I would say is my favorite because I think they do use scouts. I don't think they're right all the time. I think they've gotten a little bit bloated. But for the most part, the guys that write at Pro Football Focus that know ball, I like the most. And why do they have Joe Milton as the SEC's dark horse Heisman candidate? And who else might be mentioned as we change gears, and we'll get to 4 downs, brought to you by Zen Sports here momentarily. Tell me why Joe Milton's on this list.
So Joe Milton, PFF, for those who don't know, is a numbers-oriented site more than anything else. It can be flawed and can be skewed because it's numbers-based. Particularly, they use certain types of numbers to judge offensive linemen. And that's, Dave, you know more than I do. Offensive line, more than any other position, you need to use the eye test. You can't really use numbers with offensive line. But you can at quarterback, and they're just bringing up the fact that, look, he threw for 971 yards and 10 touchdowns last year, averaged an 11.8 yards per pass, led to a 86.1 PFF grade on 91 dropbacks, which is just an insanely good PFF number overall if you break all of that down. So they're just looking at those numbers. They're looking at Josh Heupel's system. They're looking at the fact that he's taking over, and they're like, I mean, the real question in PFF's mind would be, how is he even a dark horse at this point?
Interesting. I think he's much more of a dark horse to be a top 5 pick than win the Heisman because of the tangibles, the Anthony Richardson factor, which there have been other guys that have been able to do that. So let's go 4 down.
But playing Georgia in November helps because, again,
amen. To circle back, no question. Playing Georgia helps. Yeah, I really hadn't thought about that till you brought it up just a couple of weeks ago. Playing Kentucky and Vanderbilt in November is all but a sledgehammer to your Heisman hopes. I mean, it just doesn't matter what you do. You can go 23 of 26, throw for 330 yards, and they're like, it's Kentucky. Back in the day, not now. It's Vanderbilt. Still.
And just for a quick stat on that before you go to 4 downs, Peyton Manning's best game statistically was against Kentucky in 97. Remember that 523 yards, 5 touchdowns? His Heisman stock fell that day.
Yeah. So I like the fact that Tennessee's ending it with a more important game. And trust me, from a reporter's perspective, there have been times where you're just kind of stumbling through the season. Hit that like button, please. Subscribe. And by the way, what does Joe Milton being a Heisman candidate mean for? I'm joking. That was for you, Travis. I'm not going there. It is 4 downs, and it is now on off the hooks. It means nothing for Nico because Joe's going to be fine, and he's going to play really, really well. I think even Travis will agree that I've come around in 6 months, and I'm now a big Joe guy. And I enjoyed the interview that I did with him over the SEC Media Days. If you didn't get to hear about that, he talked a lot about his grandmother. So it was super cool. Here we go. 4 downs it's brought to you by Zen Sports.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Joe Milton, a Heisman candidate. Sounds crazy. Would have sounded crazy 365 ago if we were talking about Hendon Hooker. And 4 downs is brought to you by Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get with their cash rewards program. You get a lot of cash for a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with the code HOOKED. That's right, unlimited 5% cash back. Use the promo code HOOKED. Support our advertisers, and Zen Sports is a great one. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that, and refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports is bringing the cash back to Tennessee, so if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. So here we go. 4 downs brought to you by Zen Sports today. And Cooper Mays is always nice to keep track of the downs for us, even though a center doesn't really do that. We think that's what makes it funny. Cooper, before we get to first down.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. First down.
Coop here. First down.
Is Joe Milton a Heisman candidate, yay or nay? Right now.
Not right now. I say nay. I say
Hey now. Hey now by Hank Kingsley means I agree with you. So that's first down. Joe, I'm sorry, Coop, let's get to second down.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Will Joe Milton be a Heisman candidate? And by Heisman candidate, I'm not talking get to New York. We'll get to that. But I'm talking be in the conversation of the top 6 to 8 guys like Hendon Hooker was throughout the season. Basically, after they beat Florida, he was somewhat in the conversation. Alabama, that was his Heisman moment. So will he be a Heisman candidate? That's a different question than is he?
You see, this is a difficult one to answer because how I answer this question will have everything to do with how I'm predicting Tennessee this year, and I don't like giving away my predictions for the Vols this year.
Oh, well, and you're hung up on Nico.
No, I'm not. Okay.
That's supposedly me.
No.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you right now, Joe Milton will be a Heisman candidate because I don't think a lot of Florida. I think Tennessee gets that win. So you don't win a Heisman Trophy in October. It just doesn't happen. But I am telling you that he will be on the list with maybe a plus 1,200 next to him, which would be 12-1 odds. He will be on that sort of list. He will not be a cutoff guy that you say plus 2,500. There's no way he can win it. So I think he will be on that list. Coop, what down are we on now?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. So answer this question. Joe Milton, and I think I know your answer because I was a little bit surprised by the last one. Joe Milton will be in the conversation for the Heisman in New York or win it.
He'll be in the conversation early. He's not going to New York, and he's not winning it.
Okay, you ready? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Joe Milton's going to go to New York.
Wow. Look at Dave over here. From Joe Milton's going to lose his starting job in January to now Joe Milton's going to be in New York.
I base, you know me, and I tell you stuff off the record that I can't say publicly. Everything I've heard, everything is going incredibly well. Okay, so barring injury, I think this is a down year quarterbacks in the SEC. Not that you have to take all SEC players to the Heisman ceremony, but I think he's going to have a better season than Spencer Rattler. I think KJ Jefferson will have an as effective season, but very different in terms of he's going to run the football a little bit more. And I think at some point that writers, whether they should or shouldn't look at the SEC and they say, who's the best quarterback? I think Joe Milton might end up being the best quarterback. We'll see what Jaden Daniels does. That to me is the primary competition at LSU. So if you take that leap of faith, if he ends up being the best quarterback in the SEC, then he's probably going to New York, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you hate to agree with me on this one. Why do you hate to agree with me on this one?
So are you saying, because I interviewed him last week, funny enough, and he's on our show from last Tuesday, if you guys want to check it out, I think last Wednesday. But
who did you interview last week?
DJ Shockley at Georgia.
Oh, okay, yeah, DJ Shockley.
And so are you saying that Joe Milton could be DJ Shockley? And what I mean by that is, you remember, right, Dave, when DJ Shockley stepped in for David Green in 2005, he was better in 2005 than David Green was in any of his 4 years at Georgia. Like, by far. The question actually kind of became, how did Mark Richt start David Green over DJ Shockley? Honestly, the previous few years. Are you saying that could be Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker?
Yes, and I'm saying that for a couple of different reasons. Now, Joe Milton has spent actually more time, if you think about it, preparing for the starting role than Hendon Hooker did. Because 2 years ago, Joe Milton was being prepared for the starting role. Injuries happen. Hooker played well. Last year, Hooker was being prepared for the starting role. That's one offseason. Joe Milton is being prepared for the starting role for the second offseason, despite what happened in 2021. So I think he's going to be better than advertised. And I think at the end of the year, I will have Joe Milton as my number one quarterback in the SEC. So I've got to look over at what people are saying on the message board for a second, because people might think I'm crazy. Mr. Jones says Joe is winning the Heisman. And Travis says, Dave, finally wearing orange glasses. Come on in. The water's fine. That's the thing you should like, Travis, is I don't wear orange glasses, but I really believe that will be the case. I think that Joe Milton will, if I had to bet $20 right now, I'm not betting my mortgage, Caleb, okay? But if I had to bet my $20, I would say Joe Milton ends up in New York. All right, now this one's interesting, and somebody's already led us into this conversation. What down is it, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Thank you, Coop. Who else will get consideration from the Vols for the Heisman Trophy? Now, I am talking about those plus 2,500 guys that may not even make a list. But who at least, because Jalen Hyatt was mentioned, who else? What other player, if any, gets consideration for the Heisman Trophy? Light consideration. I'm not talking November consideration. Don't look at me like that, Caleb. By the way, hit like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Turn your notifications on, whatever platform you may be on. If you're on YouTube, you can see Caleb looking at me like I'm a total idiot. But
no, I just have a very, very, very evil thing to say. But
okay, what other player gets Heisman Trophy talk for the Vols? Has to be offense, right?
The second most likely player to get Heisman Trophy talk for the Vols would be Nico.
Are you serious?
I'm saying yes, there's a chance Joe Milton ends up in New York. There's also a chance he loses his starting job to Nico. And if he loses his starting job to Nico, then Nico is in the Heisman race or in the conversation.
Okay, well, you did a dastardly thing on me. You picked a second stringer. So let me throw these names at you that are on the message board. You have Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy. You also have Squirrel White, Dante Thornton. I thought you would go in that direction. You're right, Rocky Top Tom. If Nico is getting talk, then that means the season. Well, if he's getting Heisman talk.
If he's getting Heisman talk, the season's not a disaster.
Yeah, it probably means you lost against Florida. You put Nico in and everything's great. But we're not going out of that. Travis says Caleb's still asleep. No, Caleb's throwing heat. I like the direction. But if you had to pick among those receivers, because I'm going to go a little bit off script. We know what Tennessee can do from the slot receiver position. And it's probably going to be Dante, or it's probably going to be, you would think, Squirrel White at that slot receiver position. Now, we got a couple of votes for running backs in Jabari Small and Jalen Wright. I don't think they are transcendental type of running backs that would get that type of pub. I also don't think that they are going to get enough carries per to be in that conversation. I think they want to split things up with Cam Selden as well. So out of the group of receivers, who would you pick? And I'm going to surprise you again.
I think it's going to be Brew McCoy. And the reason I think
I thought I was going to surprise you again.
No, here's why I think it's going to be Brew McCoy. Ramel Keaton is clearly starting on the other side at wideout, but we know that Ramel Keaton is the clear-cut second wideout. Brew McCoy is your go-to wideout. Agreed?
Yeah, he's what's called a number one in NFL terms, and that doesn't mean the first guy you look at. That means a guy that dictates coverage. Brew McCoy is the guy who dictates coverage, and coverage will roll towards him, which strengthens and weakens your argument because he may get fewer catches, but he may have a bigger impact on the game. That's what scouts tell me. That's per scouts, not me.
Here's my thing. I would say Squirrel White or Dante Thornton, but I actually am starting to think, this kind of just entered my mind, I think Heupel may go a little bit different this year and rotate in the slot between both of them because they're both so good and they both bring such a different dynamic. I think they're like last year, Jalen Hyatt was in the slot just regularly all year. What are the chances, Dave, that Heupel does what he did with Princeton Fant and Jacob Warren, but in the slot alternates Squirrel White and Dante Thornton?
It would be a departure from what he's done, but I think it's a wise move. So I'm not going to start questioning him until they have a top 50 offense instead of a top 1 offense. But yes, I would try to get them both on the field. Travis says Brew is a man amongst children, but it is not our big play guy. But here is my theory. And yes, they could rotate between drives like they did with Princeton Fant and they did with Jacob Warren last year and I believe the year before. Here is my theory on Brew McCoy, Travis, and tell me if I'm crazy. Yes, he's a man among boys, not our big play guy, according to your post. However, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'll tell you one thing. That slot receiver, whether his name is Jalen Hyatt, Squirrel White, Dante Thornton, is never beating me again. I don't care if I have to line a guy up directly on his nose and then I've got a safety over top. Beat me with the outside guy because I want to test Joe Milton and how he can throw outside because I believe he's going to be very good over the middle and I believe he's going to be very good with some intermediate short passes. So I'm actually going with Brew because I think that he will have a fantastic season because coordinators are going to say, you're not going to beat me with that slot cat again. I'm just not going down that road.
Dave, so remember, though, that did last year was a reaction to what happened in 2021 when they got beat so many times on the outside by Hendon Hooker because and Cedric Tillman torched them so much. They said, we're not going to let Cedric Tillman beat us on the outside. So they sold out to the outside, and that's why Jalen Hyatt was so dominant over the middle last year. Even though Cedric Tillman got hurt, everybody knew that Hendon Hooker could still make those throws with McCoy and Keaton. So you're saying it's going to go back to 2021 where they're going to test the outside and go back to covering the slots.
Yes, and then you see what they do, and if the slot's open, if I'm a defensive coordinator, man, I'm not giving up 5 touchdowns to Jalen Hyatt. I'm sorry, I don't care what it takes. I mean, that's not going to happen. That's not the way I'm going to get beat. That would be my theory. So I think it opens stuff on the outside. But a great point by Travis too. He is a man amongst boys. I actually think that based off people I've talked to, that he is the best NFL prospect on this team, regardless of position. That's not to say Joe Milton wouldn't be drafted higher if he's a great quarterback or Nico. But right now, with the guys that are on this football team, regardless of position, I think he is the most NFL-ready quarterback, which means you probably have to lose him in a year. But I'm going with Brew McCoy. I know that's a bit outside the norm. It'll probably be a slot receiver, and we'll see. But I'm going with Brew McCoy at this point.